So, welcome to this episode of Menopause Conversations. My name's Amantha King. I'm a workplace menopause consultant and an executive performance coach. And it's a great privilege for me to be able to do this series, no more so than today, because I have a fellow colleague with me. I've got the wonderful Tina Backhouse. Hello, Tina. How are you?
Hello, I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And thanks so much for being here. I know Tina is about to embark on a very, very busy period of time, but let me introduce you to the wonderful Tina and what we're going to talk about today. So Tina is the general manager of Theramex UK and Ireland, and it's probably better if I hand over to Tina to say what it is she does, what's her role, and actually how you find yourself in this space, because I'm really often interested. How do people find themselves in this space, which is menopause, which is vast, and women's health, which is vast? So give us a little introduction about you.
Okay. Yeah, I will. So I do think, I mean, I'm one of these people that I've never really had a plan, and I've just always ended up in more or less the right space at the right time, which is just exactly what I feel about this role. So my role is the general manager for UK and Ireland for Theramex. Theramex is a women's health company. That's what we do. We are a global company set up about 6 years ago, and really set up by private equity with the vision of providing healthcare for women's products that were being discontinued by big pharma in what they call, they often have their tail products that aren't their big products and that they sort of disinvest in. And a lot of those disinvestments were in women's health. So at that time, we were seeing increased reduction of choices around women's health, and also that all products were not available in all global markets. So that's why we exist, really. We don't make our own products. We license products, we buy products, we co-promote products, we bring products in from other countries, and with the absolute intention of making lots of choice available for women's health and for women in their space, because the choices have been reduced in the last few years.
Yeah, massively so. And so let's recap a little bit, shall we? Because obviously we know this environment really well. It's the only industry I've grown up in, apart from the industries I find myself in now. But there was a cliff edge moment, wasn't there, in women's health, particularly we know around the time of the Women's Health Initiative study. And I was at that time in a company selling HRT, ironically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was working for a French pharmaceutical company selling HRT, and I can remember that week vividly when that study came out. It was like,
yeah, our marketing director can as well, actually, because she was in a company as well.
Yeah, and it really, really was like, oh my gosh, literally overnight, our products were pulled, and we were no longer talking about them. And I, more personally, I can remember my mum, who was an orthopedic nurse, literally getting taken off her HRT and was told, you won't be getting an implant that we promised you either. And it was like this really awful time. And then obviously what we've seen since then is the dramatic rise in antidepressants, which correlates again with that time point. But you're so right. And for people who don't know, I think sometimes the pharmaceutical industry, I think people think they know what it's doing, but it can take so long for products to come to market, can't it? That when we have them disinvested, it's massive.
I mean, it takes a long time, doesn't it? And especially to remanufacture things. I mean, at the time of the Women's Health Initiative in the UK, around 30% of eligible women who could take HRT were taking HRT, and overnight that crashed to about 4 or 5%, and it literally was overnight. So of course that takes a massive hit. It stops manufacture, and companies, it's no longer profitable. So it's really always interesting to me at the moment when people go, oh, well, of course, everyone's on HRT, you should all stop talking about it, that we still haven't got back to that level. We're still only around 16% of eligible women. Now, obviously, the pool's bigger because there's more women, but in terms of percentages, it's half of what was at 20 years ago taking HRT. And the Department of Health very much would like to get back to that 30%, that magic 30%, if not beyond it, because what they believe is, long-term benefits around taking HRT for women and long-term outcomes. So it was one of those moments And actually, it doesn't happen that often in pharmaceuticals, which is interesting because it is quite high risk pharmaceuticals. It doesn't happen that often. And the women's health space in the UK hasn't ever really recovered from that. And in the last 2 years, we've started to see that recovery take place. But and this is why, though, you know, we then suddenly got HRT shortages, because it's impossible, you know, as we've said before, it's not like, you know, when we spoke to Sajid Javid about it, when he called all the manufacturers in to tell us off, and it's not like ordering bread from Waitrose. You can't just say, oh, next week I'll have this amount. You know, there's about a 7-month lead in terms of manufacturing. Plus the time, you know, we were going through the pandemic, and, you know, not many people manufacture in this country. They're manufacturing all over Europe.
Yes.
You know, that became really difficult with factories closing because of COVID and a lot of illness. So it's been really, really challenging to actually get it back to the 16% of women. And now I think we're in the position where all pharmaceutical companies feel like they have a good supply, and, you know, a robust supply moving forward, which is fantastic, because ultimately that means that there's massive choice for women. And, you know, one of the issues was that when we kept having this argument with Maria Caulfield, where she's saying, well, there is HRT available because there's this old oral product or that old, and we were like, but that's not what they want. That's not what women are taking. You can't say 1 minute they're taking a patch or a gel and then we're going to give them this. It doesn't work like that. And you know yourself, it's very sensitive. Women, you can have 2 women with pretty much identical symptoms who will react to different types of HRT based on absorption and lifestyle and all those other things. So you know, having good, robust supply of women's health products, increasing choice, is really, really important. And that's really what we're committed to at Theramex, and what we're always trying to do. We're always trying to look for new products, look for old products that people say to me all the time, well, we used to use this product and it's really good and we don't know what happened to it. And we will go out and look for it, and, you know, and see if we can bring it back. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing, and it's all in the women's health space.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. And let's not forget, we had Brexit in all of that too, which has caused no end of issues in terms of raw materials. You know, my husband was a quality director. It was the bane of his life. And, you know, because actually it's, you know, the whole world wants those raw materials. And actually with something like Brexit, you know, we moved quite down the pecking order, didn't we, in terms of availability?
And also we have massive taxation on pharmaceuticals in this country, you know, and a lot of pressure on price. I mean, the UK paid the cheapest prices for medicines out of any other country. So actually, you know, when other countries are willing to pay more, that's a real fight as well. And certainly with Brexit, you know, I was in a position at one point where I was having a ridiculous conversation where they were saying I had to bring a product into the UK and then transfer it back to France so that it could be sent to Northern Ireland.
No.
And, you know, and it was just mad. So all these things made a perfect storm. But, you know, we've got over these at the moment. And as I say, we're really, you know, every women's health company has a good supply, and, you know, we'll continue to bring choice of products for women.
And that's so important, never more so, Tina, than this week, when we've had an announcement that one option is being reviewed. I did look a bit into it even further. So the MHRA are taking a look at the implants, the estrogen implants, which are a lifeline for people who've been through surgical menopause, POI, primary ovarian insufficiency, so that early menopause. You know, people need higher doses consistently, and so an implant is an absolute lifeline. So never has that last statement that you made been more important, that we do have more choice. And so with that in mind, then another side of the things that I know that you're into, and I was keen to get to speak to you, was about the research, because actually maybe people don't realize pharmaceutical companies do have access to research. It's part of the clinical trial data, but actually companies like Theramex also do those social studies as well, looking beyond just the, you know, what they're doing to bring to market. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to, and the exciting news that you'll be announcing.
So we, you know, I feel quite strongly about this, and And the reason being is that, you know, this conversation around, oh, everyone's talking about menopause, everyone's on HRT, you know, we're over medicalising it, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, whilst that might be true in certain sectors, that is not the case if you look across the whole country. So I was really interested in, you know, not necessarily looking at the, you know, white middle class Guardian reader woman who and whether they could access HRT and menopause services, but all women, is it equality across the country? And what we find is, as I said before, if you look around, that there's around 16% of women who could take HRT who do take HRT, and that's their choice. And I, you know, I've said this to you before. Do I think all those women should take HRT? Absolutely not. I don't think that at all. But what I really want to know is that all women have the same choices available. And, you know, 16, if you look about 16, if we look at that 84% then who aren't, that's about 11 million women of this age, which would be the biggest city in the country. Well, I think London's around 10 million people. So it would be a massive city of people. So it's a not inconsiderate number. So what we were interested in is, and I've always been interested in this, is postcode prescribing and differences, because, you know, you can read that, you know, we read the blogs, we read Instagram, and you can see the variances in what women are saying in terms of what they're being told, what doctors are prepared to do, who, you know, for example, there's lots of women on Instagram talk that my doctor says he won't prescribe anything in perimenopause. I have to wait till I'm in full menopause, or I have to wait till I'm a magic 54, or anything like that. So we were interested in doing that. So we worked with a company called GPRX who do data analysis. And we did some analysis across the country looking at HRT prescribing patterns in every part of the country. And then we validated that by having conversation with some customers, basically some KOLs. So there were some pharmacists, there were some GPs, there were some gynecologists, and talked to them about their about in their areas what the services were like in their areas. And we got some really interesting results from that. And what we found, and it will probably be no surprise to you, is that women in more affluent areas were 30% more likely to be prescribed HRT. And also when they are prescribed HRT, they are more likely to be prescribed or given choices of newer types or transdermals or different types of HRT. So we know that really, if you're, you know, we already start in this equality thing where if you're a woman, you're not equal in the healthcare sector, and that's reality. If you're a woman and you're not white and you're poor, you're even more disadvantaged, because even in those affluent areas, women of colour and were not given HRT in the same way. Now, you know, I'm not saying that that's down to racism, but what I am saying is that might be down to people being given the right information, people understanding the cultural differences and the genetic differences between women in how they present during menopause, different symptoms, different ages, and making sure those women have the education in the languages that they speak. And that women in deprived areas were even less likely. So if you are of colour and a woman and live in a deprived area, you are much less likely to be prescribed HRT. So this study that we did, and we'll be publishing in a couple of weeks, is just a snapshot really to say, you know, we can't rest and we can't stop this conversation. I know lots of people would like us to stop this conversation, but we can't stop this conversation until we can be really sure that these women have got the support they need. And as I say, I'm not on a mission to make all those women take HRT, but what I do want to know is that they have the same information, they have the same education, they have the same right to see educated healthcare professionals who understand the menopause and understand the menopause in different races, and that it's equal for all women. So that whatever your colour, whatever your religion, whatever your sexuality even, means And certainly whatever your class, and people don't like to talk about class, I always say it's a key word people don't like to talk about anymore, but class is an issue, that we know that women have the same choices available to them, and that they can make choices, their own choices about how to manage. Because I do think that, I think women should, I don't think it should be over medicalised. I think women should be able to make choices about how to manage their menopause, but they can only do that if the information is out there, it's readily available to them, and they are seeing people who are there to support them through that and really understand it. I mean, menopause, it's great that, I mean, I saw a menopause specialist because I could afford to see a menopause specialist, and I live in a relatively affluent area, well, very affluent area. I live in Winchester. It was probably one of the most affluent areas in the country. And I still struggled to get help when I was in a very, very dark place in my life because of menopause. And I could afford to pay to see a menopause specialist. And, luckily for me, that saved me and that made me be able to live my life. But that's not the case for all women, and it shouldn't be the case. When we're pregnant, we don't see a pregnancy specialist. We see our GP and our midwives and our community team who understands and supports. And this is exactly what we need to be doing in menopause as well. So that's really why we did the study. We wanted to, there's very little, as you all know, there's a real dirge of studies and clinical studies or any type of studies in women's health. And we just wanted really to take this opportunity and say to people, you may feel that everybody is talking about it and that you're fed up of hearing about it, but actually, there is a difference between white Guardian reading women knowing all the information and other women not knowing the information, and that's what we need to get to.
I think that's so true, Tina. We see it all the time, because I think lots of social media channels can be quite, I think that they're sort of quite contained. We sort of go on LinkedIn, don't we? But that's like people who are in work and they're consuming that information. But what about the people who maybe are on 0 hours contracts? What about the people who literally there's you and your boss in a shop working, or actually you're not working at all because culturally or whatever, just financially, you're at home and you're not getting access to that information. You could be disabled, and we know statistically, I mean, the sort of results in terms of care for people with disability, particularly in menopause and women's health, are just atrocious. And yet these are the people who are going to sort of benefit the most. So I think we need to widen our gaze a little bit. I think when people are saying that it's over medicalised, I think your research is going to put into context that just isn't the case.
I really agree with you. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? We I watched the Kate Garraway thing last night, and she was talking about 1 in 5 women over the age of 55 is a carer, an unpaid carer, right? So that is this age group. And then you and I have talked before about prisons and about women's prisons, and and I know Carolyn Harris has done some stuff in this, which is fantastic, where women, you're seeing nurses and doctors in women's prisons, so women's prisons, and they haven't been trained on menopause, and so we are not serving all parts of women equally. Women aren't served equally, and then within that, we're not serving all parts of women equally, and we know, don't we, that there are women doing great things in different communities.
Can we give a shout out to some of them? Let's do it between us. Let's give a shout out, right? So we've got people like Dr. Aziza Sesse, who, if you are on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, you can consume Aziza just about anywhere, and LinkedIn. And we've got Dr. Nigat Arif, haven't we? She's got her amazing book, which actually sits on my desk. Look at it. It's like well used. The knowledge. It is the best book. We've got the Wellbeing of Women charity, haven't we? Doing amazing things. And we've got Tanya, I can't remember her surname, but from the Adeno gang. We've got the Menstrual Health Project. We've got so many grassroots organisations. And I must mention Diane Dancerbrink, because what she's done with menopause support is amazing. And our celebrity friends, I sort of feel like that there's enough room for everyone, isn't there? I mean, you sort of get the impression there's like, no one wants to barge in, but I sort of think we haven't finished with statistics like 16% getting treatment. I think we've got more than enough capacity to
I really think that. I don't think it has to be one or the other. You know, you've got menopause whilst black, you've got all these different groups who are all doing fantastic things. The well-being of women are doing really trying to engage with small companies.
Yes.
You know, it's easy if you work for HSBC or Theramex or Pfizer or anything, you're going to have a menopause policy and you're going to be treated. But if you're, like you say, it's just you and your boss, I was telling you before, when I went to the Menopause Awards last year, I met a woman who worked, and I think it was Barnsley Football Club. She'd been there a long time, like 30 years. And she was telling me that when she first started in the menopause, that she was the only woman who worked at that football club. And, you know, she had no support and she didn't know what to do. And she would literally have these awful flushes and she would just take herself on endless walks around the football pitch and they didn't know what was wrong with her. And, you know, she's done amazing things locally, and now there's more women in that organisation and who are really benefiting from it. So I don't think it has to be, it has to be one or the other. I think all these women can work together collaboratively, and we're all doing different things. You know, if I look at, there's brilliant people, aren't there? There's brilliant. There's people like Lavina and those people doing exercise.
Michelle Griffith Robinson, she's a friend of mine. I mean, they're just like literally quietly behind the scenes as well. Yes, there's some stuff on social media, but I don't think anyone has any idea how much of an ask it is. People are putting this front and center. They're doing stuff in their own time. A lot of people don't get paid for this stuff. You know, I do so much pro bono stuff. I do get paid for a certain amount of work, but for me, the much bigger legacy piece is how many people have we made a difference to?
Exactly. And it's like I say, it's, don't be, I get really annoyed when I read like people like Amanda Patel in the Daily Mail. I don't read the Daily Mail, but when people flag it up to me, when our agencies flag it up to me, and about, or Sarah Vine say, oh, be quiet now, we've had enough of hearing about men. Well, maybe you have. Right, maybe you have.
Maybe they're the 1 in 4 that have sailed through it, possibly.
So yeah, absolutely. And maybe you've got your menopause and your HRT sorted out, and you've got a menopause specialist. So maybe it's all good for you, and I'm pleased for you. However, there are women, and we know because we read those blogs and we see those women out there who have not and are not getting support. So we are going to carry on speaking and advocating for those women. Until there are no women who are, until it's equal,
I don't think there's any gaffer tape wide enough to stop us talking about it.
No, definitely not. Definitely. And I think I always think I was talking to Eleanor Mills about this the other day, that when you hit 50, you don't care. I don't care.
No filters.
Actually. Keep telling me to shut up and I'll just keep talking, because I know this is the right thing to do, and I know that we can make a difference. And we'll continue to make a difference, and that's our responsibility, right? I didn't seek out to end up in women's health. I just ended up here, and I just think it was, it was meant to be. And this is, you are put in the right place at the right time, and this is, something that I can actually help and do. And for it to be my legacy of 30 years in this industry as well.
Exactly. And I feel the same. And I do feel, passion is quite an overused word, isn't it? And sometimes it can be overly diluted. But I do think that you do come through it. I mean, after 16 years myself, it was hard. You ask anyone to endure anything for 16 years unsupported. But I at least had a small amount of information, which we know can be dangerous, but I had a small amount that meant I could go ask more questions and advocate for myself. And really, for me, I want women to be in that position, and people navigating any aspect of their health, not just women's health, but to be able to ask questions, to be able to state things. No one knows your body better than you do. But if you've got some people in your camp or you can relate to, which is why the people that we've mentioned already are so fundamentally important to that. They are really the success stories too, because they are quietly getting on. They're serving people. Nagat's got clinic, Aziza's got clinics. They've all got day jobs that they're doing, and they're doing this around it. So tell me, when this study comes out, okay, what's your hope? What's your hope of the catalyst? What do you want it to do?
what I want it to do is I want it to open the conversation for people to sort of stop this kind of, oh, we've had enough of it now, you know,
Okay.
everyone's taking HRT, and I want us to say, are we treating everyone equally? And I'm really hoping that we can start engaging, you know, with people who might form the next government to talk about how we're going to make a difference to women. We have this women's health strategy, right, which is a huge document. You know, I think it's fantastic we've got the women's health strategy, but it's only words. You know, if we don't put anything around it, if we don't put any money around it, if we don't put any resource around it, you know, you can say, well, we've given money to women's health hubs. I can tell you for sure that most of those women's health that has not gone into women's health hubs. That has been absorbed into local ICB deficits. That is what's happened.
And
so
tell people what an ICB is. What's an ICB?
So an ICB is an integrated care board. So it's a healthcare economy. So it's a locality of your hospitals, GP surgeries. It's your healthcare. So where I live, Winchester, that would be Southeast Hampshire probably, or North Hampshire. So you know where I live, North Hampshire. And that would be your area. And for the most of the money that has gone straight into those ICBs, and because they are in debt and they're in deficit, it is not being released into women's health hubs. I mean, if you look geographically, there are some women's health hubs who are doing a brilliant job. Liverpool is one of them, and that's always held up as the gold standard, and it is. But I'm struggling to think of any others.
Yeah.
And the money that was given was less than about £1 per woman.
No, it was woefully inadequate.
This is not what you're going to actually provide with that. So even if they wanted to do something with it, it was not enough to even touch the size of setting up services. So we're going to have to think differently about how we do this and about how we support women. I really think that, you know, there's some key points of when doctors are or nurses are interacting, or pharmacists are interacting with women, where there's some opportunities to educate. You know, there's the over 40.
Yes, your health check, isn't there?
Your health check, and you know, menopause mandate talk about this at all. Why aren't we asking the question there about perimenopause and about preparing women? You know, and you know, I've said to you before, I was woefully unprepared because I thought, my mother died when I was a baby, so I never had any kind of experience of that, and I thought I can't be going through menopause because I hadn't had a hot flush, and I was waiting to have I've never had a hot flush to this day. You know, I'm like the coldest person ever, and I've never had a hot flush, but I had lots of other symptoms, but I didn't know they were symptoms. So I had heart palpitations, and I went for ECGs. I had aching. I mean, I literally could not walk down the stairs. I had to walk like a crab down the stairs in the morning because I was so stiff, because my joints were so stiff. And that was, you know, so I went for tests for rheumatoid arthritis. All this is banking up money that's costing the NHS. And actually, after about 4 weeks of HRT, all those symptoms disappeared. So they were hormone related, but nobody ever mentioned to me that would be menopause. And you know, I was in a very, very dark place where I didn't think I could work again. And you know, and certainly not work at this level. And we know there's a huge brain drain of women at this level leaving corporations because
well, we're hemorrhaging talent, aren't we, at an alarming rate? You know, I know there's the statistic of 1 million women. Well, that's just conservative, because even after the pandemic ended, we lost out another 187,000. I mean, it's just, you know, and it's like, how's that documented or reported? You know, not everyone does an exit interview, so we don't know the full extent of why people are leaving the workplace. But the bottom line is this: actually, I would also say not every GP has had the training.
They have
so I think there needs to be a national campaign to. It's like anything, isn't it? You've got to retake your driving test. I think actually there should be a campaign to redo it. We already know that people who are going through medical school, they'll get it, but most GPs will put their hands up and go, I've probably had about 2 hours in my whole career.
Absolutely. And we know when we run a mentoring course, and we have backlogs of people wanting to join that. Whenever we do webinars where we get, you know, a key opinion leader to talk about it, it's, you know, I'd say sold out. We obviously don't charge, but you know, it's always
Yeah, very
people,
high
so people
demand.
want to know. People want to know, and they want to be educated because they've got all these women coming. They want, doctors don't want to not help women generally, but they haven't had the training. And if they have had training, their experience of HRT was, from the WHI study, which we talked about earlier, people like your mum, where they had to take women off HRT, and so they're frightened of putting women on HRT. They don't know about the newer types of body identical HRT. They don't understand the differences or what, the limitations of that study were. And also, it's not just about HRTs, it's about, and this is why, our whole community is so important. And I love the fact that, you've got Lavina doing her little snack exercise thing and everybody doing different things, is that it's a holistic management of women that have that are in menopause, that diet and lifestyle and meditation, and Joyce will say about her cold water swimming, and she's a big advocate of that, and that really helps lots and lots of women. And all these, but that's information. I'm so privileged, I think, when after that I got my HRT sorted, and I'm so privileged because I could talk to Nigel Denby about nutrition. I could talk to people like Joyce and Ellen about cold water swimming and go on these yoga retreats, and I'm extremely privileged to be able to do that, because I know these people and I can see the information, and I really want that for all women. And I want them to live their best possible life, especially if they are carers, if they're looking after teenagers, they're looking after elderly parents. I want women to be able to, or if they're, working, and we're expected now to work longer than ever. And there's an economic implication of that, of having women work longer in the workplace. So I really want women to have their best possible life, and we can do that by bringing products and supplying HRT and making sure it doesn't run out again, which I'm pretty sure it won't. But famous last words. But I mean, when you get another Davina program, and there's that 40% demand in a month, that is quite difficult to manage. But it's not just about that. It's just it's, for us, it's more than just supply. We could just sit here and do nothing and supply the market, and the market would grow, and we'd be happy. But we have a responsibility to make sure that people are using HRT responsibly. I still get a lot of people come to me and tell me, they're just taking estrogen and then unopposed estrogen, and they haven't been given the progesterone, and and all these different things. So it's really important to us that we educate people, and it's really important that we work with people like yourself, everybody, to make sure that women have the chance and they understand, and the information out there, so that they can really manage their menopause in the best possible way.
And I would concur with that. And if I just give you an example of that, literally in the rail industry, I heard 2 accounts of people who have got HRT. Great, brilliant. They are in a very safety conscious industry. GPs have given them progesterone, but not told them to take it at night. So we have got people taking progesterone in the morning. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's those conversations which are very powerful with with the right people, with people who understand how these things work. I would always say, be careful where you're consuming your information. Make sure that it's credible sources. But we can stop people and go, sorry, can I just pause you there 1 minute? When did you say you're taking your progesterone? In the morning, and you say you're feeling groggy, can't really concentrate. It's these small little adjustments of knowledge that make people go, right, okay, now I'm back on track. And I think we must never underestimate that. Never underestimate the power of good information delivered at the right time, to the right person in the right way, can be life-changing, really and truly.
Absolutely. And for women to understand and to ask for things, and this is about the education as well. And I was in Winchester Market a couple of weekends ago, and I live in Winchester, so I know all the market trenders really, really well. And one of them said to me, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Yes, of course you can." And he said, "My aunt basically has been taking estrogen for 3 years with no progesterone, and now she does have a cancer.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, kind of got that. I was like, what did know where was the HRT check? Where were the checks? You know, because I go once a year, and you know, it's not a huge check, but you know, they take your blood pressure and they talk to you a bit, and there's nothing. So for 3 years this has been going on. And you see, that's why I think it's really important that we advocate for these women, that we say we should be asked in the over 40s check. These women should be having HRT checks.
Agreed.
They should know that they have to take both parts.
Yes.
You know, I've had very, very influential women come up to me and in Parliament and say, again, why I have to take progesterone, so they really like it. And it hasn't been explained to them. So this conversation is not over.
So Tina, let's use this as an opportunity. Tell people why they do need to take it.
Well, they need to take it because it protects your lining. If you're not shedding your lining on a monthly basis because of your periods, the lining can build up, and that can lead to different kinds of cancers. So you definitely need to be taking it. But you know, I've been on walks with my friends before, and they've said, "Oh, I just take it like 2 or 3 times a week." I'm like,
like it's optional, like it's like having sugar in your coffee.
My GP about it, who was doing like a cursory kind of review of me in a very sort of offhand way, and she said, and I said about this, and she said, "Well, what are we supposed to do? Monitor the prescriptions?" And I said, yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
You are.
You should not be giving one without the other. And that you know, you might not like me saying that, but that's the reality. So, and it's just, and look, no one goes out to, you know, to harm people intentionally, but we need to make sure that these doctors and nurses have all the education and all the information they need, and the information on the drugs as well. But we also need to make sure that all women, like I say, not just ones that read The Guardian, you know, all women understand, one, that they might not have a hot flush and that all these different symptoms could be building up to menopause or they're in menopause, and two, what options are available to them, and that they are able, we can advocate for them so that they're able to ask and get the right information and the right treatment. And sometimes that won't be HRT, often it won't be.
No. And can I say, just at this moment, she says reaching behind for her books, which I always keep to hand. I would like to use this opportunity to advocate for people who have a history of endometriosis, because like Tina just said, you know, if you don't have a womb, then maybe you might not be given it. However, there is one caveat, and it's written up in this book, which is the British Menopause Society, and I've even put a tab on it, and it actually says in women with severe endometriosis where there's been extensive or residual disease, you can actually be given progesterone to keep those cells dormant, to stop them, what we call proliferating and plumping up and doing exactly what Tina said. So, you know, it's these little gems of information that people go, okay. And I've actually had, it was quite funny actually, but not funny because I wrote a letter, but someone who came to see me said, the doctor has just said, I don't know what ridiculous social media outputs you're watching, but you're not getting progesterone. So I took it, you know, I took great joy in sending that article back very nicely in a letter saying, these aren't actually, it's not from social media, it is actually in guidance document from the British Menopause Society. Now that lady was then given it. So I do think there is, we've got to get over the, it's okay that you don't know, but at least if you're willing to be educated, and the research that you've done, bringing it back to the research you've done, I think it means that that conversation stays on the table then.
It stays on the table. And the fact is that this is dismissive of women, right, and women's condition. And this is, you know, this is the patriarchy, you know, through years and years of how we do this. And, you know, as I've said to you before, I worked at Pfizer at a high level when we launched Viagra. There was no point at any, and it was on the front of the Sun, it was on everywhere, you know, at no point did anyone say you are over medicalising erectile dysfunction. They did not say that. And, you know, and neither should they, because there were people that needed that and they got it and it changed their lives. And, but this, you know, and that's what makes me really cross when people are very dismissive about celebrities or people, you know, oh, you know, people making a business out of it. These are making a difference, and that's the reality. And actually, it's incredibly dismissive and misogynistic to say, oh, be quiet, you get your information from social media and just watching, Davina on Instagram, what. And it's incredibly patronizing and misogynistic to say that. And I think it's incredibly patronizing to the people who are doing it. And I think it's really disrespectful to women. But I think it's this dismissive of, it's just the menopause. I mean, the ARCOG have got that brilliant campaign, haven't they, about, oh, it's just a period, or and yet we know that there are some girls who are missing 2 or 3 days a month from school,
Yes.
because of
Yes.
heavy periods are not normal.
No,
they are not normal. And we know, and this research, what made me want to do this research in the beginning was talking to people like Azizia, and knowing that Black women are dismissed even more.
oh my gosh, yes.
In terms of pain and bleeding, and all, we know they get uterine fibroids more than white women, but they're dismissed all the time. So we have to get over this thing about dismissing of women and their healthcare concerns and menopause, and that's why we cannot stop this conversation. I love it when people say, oh, you need to stop talking about menopause. I will never stop talking about it, and we won't stop talking about women's health, because our daughters should not be talking about this in 40 years' time. And if they are, we have failed, and we can't do that.
No, I agree with you 100%. And that is it. It's that whole education piece. That's Tina's lovely dog.
Oh, sorry. See, this is what happens. My daughter comes back from school.
That's like, it's real life. It's real life. This is the hustle and the juggle. So, can you see yourself doing more research in the future?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we are at the moment, because we don't just do menopause. We're bringing products later in the year in osteoporosis and uterine fibroids, and there actually hasn't been anything new in osteoporosis in this country for years and years, and it's a devastating it's a devastating disease, and I think one of the areas that I'm interested in is there a correlation between women that were taken off HRT 20 years ago in WHI, and now 20 years later we're starting to see those women come through with osteoporosis. I
would say, being a betting woman, and that's one of the products that I was promoting, because that is a really outdated sort of a disease area. Like some people, like the tablets are like blimmin' horse tablets, and you have to stay upright for 2 hours because it can burn you. And so this is where we need progress, don't we? We need progress so people can continue living their lives whilst navigating some of these things.
Exactly. And also we have to fight that these products are available in the NHS.
Yes.
And that they're not just available in some areas, they're not just available for people that can pay for them. These products need to be properly funded. If they've gone through NICE reviews, which we are doing at the moment, if they've gone through NICE reviews, then they need to be funded and they need to be available for all women, because they make a huge difference. And so, those are the things but I would really encourage people, if you've got ideas around research, or you've got products that you want to talk about, or you want us to try and find, then, people should contact me, because I love it. I love it when I get so many. My boss always says to me, you get the most random LinkedIn messages of anybody I ever know. And I do, but
you love it. You love it.
But I never really say no to a conversation, because you never really know what's there, right? And we have to open our minds. And I especially want to do some research around uterine fibroids and in the Black women's community.
Yes.
And how we can support the diagnosis earlier for that group of women, which I think is really important. So all these things are things that we want to do in the future.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so I must name check Dawn Heels, who is absolutely amazing and trailblazing in terms of advocating and awareness around fibroid. She's absolutely brilliant. Okay. She just won some awards, actually, I think, along with Aziza, because actually, using your pain becomes your power. I honestly believe that. So before I bring the last word to you, then, how can people be more in touch with you then? Like if they've got like things they want to sound out with you, what's the best way to know more about you?
They can definitely, they can go onto our website, our Theramex UK website. They can contact me on LinkedIn and message message me on LinkedIn, and yeah, they contact anyone on via Theramex in our global head office, which is in London, then they would get put. We're quite a small company. We often sit we pretend we're like this mighty giant. We're really tiny. There's not many of us. So
I know, but you're doing great things. You're doing really, really great things, which is wonderful. And so when I say to you then, okay, so let's pan forward into 5 years' time, a little bit of crystal ball gazing.
Yeah.
Where would you like us to be when we think about women's health? Where would you like us to be as a recap?
So I think the most important thing for me would be that the women's health strategy has got some legs, and it's actually made some real strides forward because at the moment, if I asked them, went into the street, into the high street and asked women about the women's health strategy, no one would know about it. And I would really like it to have some meaningful outcomes for women, and so that we could measure, and you know, we love to measure stuff, don't we? KPIs and
oh yeah,
if we could measure the success of that in 5 years and the impact that has made to women, and as I say, not just to white women in affluent areas, but to all women. And let's look at different ethnicities, let's look at different classes of women in different geographical areas, and make sure that we're making progress for all those women. You know, I used to be chair of governors of a school, and one of the things you're measured on is the progress you make for the lower attaining children.
Yes.
Right. And can you show that you're making progress for those children? And I think it's a bit like that. We have to make progress for the people we aren't serving, and we should be measuring that. And so that's what I would like to see in the women's health strategy. I hope whoever wins the election at the end of the year seizes the opportunity that making a difference for 51% of the population is worth doing.
Yeah, I love that. And I really am very excited at the prospect if a Labour government gets in, because any business over 250 employees will have to put sort of like glass ceiling data through a government website to not just show what they're doing, because, you know, with the greatest of respect to signing pledges and things, that doesn't really talk about action. I could sign a pledge tomorrow. It doesn't mean I need to do anything. But actually, I would like to really see that. Let's roll our sleeves up. Let's get stuck in. And like you say, make a difference to the 51%. But also, I would like a call to action, because I could maybe just say it, is that big businesses, look at the communities around you. What are you doing with your corporate social responsibility funds? What are you actually doing for the people that don't work for you, but you've got a building in a location, in a community? How can you put something back? Because if you're stuck for ideas, get in touch with me. I've got a million ideas of what you can do.
You have got lots of ideas. And I think that's absolutely right. I'm hopeful for a Labour government, and because one, I think, you know, Wes Streeting wrote recently, didn't he, about his the experience that his sister had in the NHS at Christmas around women's health. So that gives me optimism, and I've certainly had conversations with him that tell me that he understands what we're getting to. And secondly, because I know Caroline Harris will never let them off the hook, and you know, she will keep being that strong advocate for us. So so moving forward, you know, I think we certainly can't be silent, and it's not the time for us to start going, we've done it, because we definitely haven't. We're only just starting, and we need to carry on talking.
Well, I couldn't finish it any better than that, so I won't. So thank you so much for your time today, Tina Backhouse. Just tell us the date when the research is going to be out and in the public domain.
So it's going to be out the week commencing the 15th of April, and we'll have some press releases around that. So hopefully we'll have it on LinkedIn and our social media. Hopefully people will be able to see it then. And so we look forward to sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Keep fighting the cause, because actually you're one of the good ones. You know, you're always championing other people, and I absolutely love that about you. You're always raising women up, and actually in all our own spaces, bring people with you, not just in the whole menopause and health thing. You know, we're stronger together. Let's go together. So thank you so much for now, Tina, and I'm sure we'll catch up again. Thank you.